Get out and never come back. The words ripped through the night air like broken glass. At 2 a.m., I was standing barefoot on the porch of my childhood home, pajamas clinging to me in the freezing rain, as my own mother shoved me into the street. Her nails left crescent marks in my arm, still burning as the front door slammed with a final hollow thud. Behind her, I saw the silhouette of her new husband, Thomas. Arms crossed, lips curved into that smug half-smile he always wore when he thought he'd won. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His silence was a victory lap, the final shove that told me I had no place here anymore. The lock clicked, sharp and deliberate. That sound was louder than her screaming, louder than my sobs. It was the sound of erasure. I wasn't just kicked out of my house. I was being cut out of my family's story. Rain slicked the pavement as I stumbled down the driveway, hugging myself against the cold. My chest heaved, part rage, part heartbreak. Just hours ago, I had argued with them about Lane Properties, the company my late father had built with his bare hands. I refused to sign over his legacy to Thomas. And for that, my mother branded me a traitor. Every step away from that house was a step deeper into betrayal. My hair stuck to my face, tears mixing with rainwater, and still, I heard her voice echoing in my head. You disobeyed us. Us. As if Thomas had suddenly replaced my father. As if I was nothing more than a nuisance standing in the way of their plan. At that moment, a vow took root in me. I wasn't going to vanish. I wasn't going to let them erase me from my father's company, or his memory. They thought this was the end. They had no idea it was the beginning. Because what I discovered next, the real reason they wanted me gone, would change everything. If you've ever been betrayed by family or pushed aside unfairly, drop your story in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like this video, because what comes next will blow your mind. The rain hadn't even dried from my hair when the first message lit up my phone. It was from my cousin Holly. Family meeting, tomorrow, Ivory Room, noon. My stomach twisted. Why invite me now, hours after being thrown out like garbage? I stared at the glowing screen inside a dingy bus shelter, shivering under fluorescent light. The words felt less like an invitation and more like a trap. Still, something gnawed at me. They were rushing. Judith, my mother, never rushed anything. She calculated, manipulated, pulled strings quietly behind the scenes. If she was calling a family meeting less than 12 hours after exiling me, it meant they were hiding something. Something urgent. My mind flashed back to the subtle betrayals that had built up over years. 2 years ago, I arrived at a family dinner only to find my usual seat replaced by a flimsy folding chair shoved into a corner. We're reorganizing, Judith had said, while Thomas smirked over his wine glass. My name vanished from company emails soon after. Board meetings forgot to include me, even though Dad S. named me as a key shareholder. At the time, I brushed it off. Tonight, it all clicked into place. They weren't just sidelining me, they were dismantling me, piece by piece, until I didn't exist at all. And now, with me gone, their plan was finally in motion. I scrolled my feed, hoping for a distraction, when a post from Judith's account made my heart stop. Lane Properties, a new era. There it was, a photo of Judith and Thomas standing side by side in the boardroom, smiles plastered across their faces. Behind them, distant relatives I barely recognized filled the frame. The caption praised Thomas's leadership. My name, my father's only heir, was nowhere. The betrayal wasn't just private anymore, it was public. The whole city of Madison was clapping for them, congratulating their fresh start, while I was left drenched, barefoot, and forgotten. My coffee that morning tasted like ash. My hands shook as I scrolled through the comments. Congrats, Judith, bold vision. Thomas will take Lane Properties to the next level. Each line was a knife twist. They had already rewritten history. But then another buzz hit my phone, an unexpected message from Dad's oldest friend, George Ellis. Meet me tomorrow, coffee shop. I have something you need to see. I froze, the phone slipping in my palm. My chest tightened. Not from fear this time, but from hope. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as powerless as Judith and Thomas thought. Because if George had what I suspected, proof of their lies, this family war had only just begun. The next morning, I walked into the coffee shop on Willie Street, my clothes still damp from the night before, my nerves buzzing like live wires. George Ellis was already there, sitting in the corner booth like a shadow from the past. His gray hair was thinner now, but his handshake was still firm, steady, the kind of grip that once sealed multi-million-dollar deals with my father. On the table sat a thick brown envelope. He slid it toward me without a word, his eyes carrying the weight of something he'd been holding too long. "Your father trusted me," George said quietly, his voice low enough to get lost under the hiss of the espresso machine. "He asked me to keep certain documents safe. I never thought I'd need to give them to you like this." My breath hitched. With trembling fingers, I pulled the envelope open. Inside were shareholder agreements, original, notarized, naming me, Meredith Lane, as the rightful heir to Dad's shares in Lane Properties. My father's bold handwriting filled the margins, his signature unmistakable. I felt heat rush to my face. Proof. Solid, undeniable proof that Judith and Thomas were forging documents to strip me of everything Dad had promised. George leaned closer, his voice gravelly. "They've been planning this since the day Charles passed. I kept these safe because I knew Judith and Thomas. I knew they couldn't be trusted." My eyes blurred, not with tears of weakness, but with fury. Judith had erased my name from dinners, from company records, from her social media announcement, but she couldn't erase Dad's will, not the truth he left behind. George's hand lingered on mine, steadying me. "Meredith, you need to be careful. They'll fight dirty. But this is your shield." I clutched the envelope like it was oxygen. The weight of it was heavy, grounding. For the first time since Dad died, I didn't feel powerless. I felt armed. As I slipped the papers into my bag, George's warning echoed in my ears. "They'll fight dirty." And he was right. Because the moment Judith discovered I had this, she'd come at me with everything she had left. Lies, manipulation, maybe worse. But this time, I wouldn't be walking away barefoot in the rain. This time, I had a weapon. I left the coffee shop with the envelope clutched so tightly against my chest that the edges bent beneath my grip. My mind was a storm. George's words, Dad's handwriting, Judith's cold eyes at the meeting. By the time I reached the quiet corner of State Street, I already knew the next person I had to call. Sylvia Ross. We'd met in college, bonded over late-night debates and mutual stubbornness. Now she was one of Madison's sharpest young lawyers, known for taking cases no one else dared to touch. If there was anyone I trusted to cut through Judith and Thomas's web of lies, it was her. I dialed her number, and she picked up on the first ring. "Meredith? What's going on?" My voice trembled at first, but I steadied it. "It's Lane Properties. They're trying to erase me, Sylvia. But I have documents, originals, Dad's signature. He named me as heir." There was silence on the line, followed by the faint sound of typing. "Scan them, now. Send me everything. If they forge transfers, we'll nail them for fraud." I ducked into a print shop, the fluorescent lights flickering above as I fed the pages into the scanner one by one. My hands shook, but when I hit send, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was fighting back. An hour later, Sylvia called again. Her tone was sharper, charged with energy. "These are airtight, Meredith. The signatures are real. The dates check out. Legally, you own those shares, but..." She paused, her voice dropping. "We'll need more. If they're forging contracts, there's a digital trail. Emails, bank transfers, something. We'll smoke them out." Her confidence was a bomb, but also a spark. My father had always said that integrity was Lane Properties' foundation. Judith and Thomas had replaced it with greed and deception. Now Sylvia was showing me the blueprint to bring it all crashing down. "Start a paper trail of your own," she advised. "Every meeting, every word, every document. Document their lies as carefully as they documented their schemes. The truth isn't just on your side. It's your weapon." I leaned against the glass door of the print shop, the city sounds muffled outside. My reflection stared back at me, not the daughter begging for a place at the table, but the heir my father believed in. I whispered it aloud, steady and certain. "I'm taking it back." But Sylvia was right. Judith and Thomas wouldn't fold easily. If they knew I had these documents, they'd double down, escalate. And I had a feeling they'd strike sooner than I expected. By Friday, I was running on caffeine and adrenaline. The envelope from George never left my sight. I even slept with it tucked under my pillow like a lifeline. But Sylvia was right. We needed more than just documents. We needed to catch them in the act. That morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Judith herself. Lane Properties office, 3 p.m., be there. No warmth, no explanation. Just a command, like I was still the obedient daughter she thought she owned. My gut told me it was a trap, but I showed up anyway. If they wanted a performance, I was going to give them an audience they'd never forget. The office hadn't changed much since Dad's time. The same glass doors gleaming, the same oak desk he used to sit behind. But when I walked in, Judith was in his chair, her posture stiff, her smile sharp as a blade. Thomas leaned casually against the window, arms crossed, like a king surveying his stolen kingdom. "Meredith," Judith said smoothly, sliding a thick folder across the desk. "Sign this, and we can put all this nonsense to rest." I didn't touch it. "What is it?" Her smile tightened. "A transfer of your remaining shares to Thomas. It's what's best for the company. Less drama, more stability. You'll be compensated, of course." My stomach churned as I flipped the folder open. The contract looked official, complete with seals and signatures, but not my father's. These were new, slick, and painfully obvious fakes. I looked up, meeting her eyes. "You forged this." The mask slipped for just a second, her lips pressing into a thin line. Thomas cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Meredith, you're young. Emotional. This fight will ruin you. Think carefully before you refuse. You don't want the world to see you as ungrateful, do you?" My pulse pounded in my ears. I could smell the faint tang of lemon polish on Dad's desk, the place where he once told me, "This company is yours one day. Don't let anyone take it." I pushed the contract back across the table. "Dad already made his choice, and you're terrified people will find out." For the first time, Thomas's mask cracked, his jaw tightening as his eyes flickered with something colder. Fear. Judith slammed her palm on the desk, the sound echoing through the office. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I leaned closer, my voice low but steady. "No, you will, because I have proof, and I'm not afraid to use it." I grabbed my bag and walked out, leaving the forged contract behind. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from fire. I had rattled them. And when cornered, people like Judith and Thomas always made mistakes. What I did not know was that their biggest mistake was coming faster than I could have imagined. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind replayed every second in that office. Judith's clenched jaw, Thomas's flicker of fear, the slam of her palm on Dad's desk. They weren't invincible. They were cornered. I sat on my friend's worn-out couch, laptop balanced on my knees, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Somewhere deep inside me, a memory stirred. Dad's voice, calm and certain. "Meredith, if you ever doubt, look where no one else would bother. I've left you more than you think." I opened his old email account. It had been dormant for years, the inbox frozen like a time capsule. My heart raced as I scrolled through thousands of messages, contracts, board notes, personal reminders. Then I saw it, a folder buried at the bottom, labeled in all caps, for Meredith. My hands shook as I clicked. Inside was a single message, dated just a month before his heart attack. The subject line read, "Your future." I opened it. His words filled the screen, steady and direct. "Meredith, Lane Properties belongs to you. Not Judith, not Thomas. To you. My shares, my legacy, they are yours. If they ever try to take it, don't let them. I trust your strength." Attached was a scanned letter with his bold handwriting, notarized and dated. It detailed his explicit intent for me to inherit controlling shares. My throat tightened, tears blurring my vision. It wasn't just a letter, it was a weapon. Before I could fully absorb it, my phone buzzed, a text from Sylvia. "Any updates?" I snapped photos of the email and attachment, sending them to her immediately. She called within minutes, her voice sharp with excitement. "Meredith, this is dynamite. Combined with George's documents, it proves beyond doubt that you're the rightful heir. But listen, this makes you dangerous to them. They'll double down. Be ready." I nodded, though my chest was heavy. "So what's next?" "We push. We don't just defend, we strike. But first, make sure every copy is secure. Send it to me, to trusted allies, even to a cloud backup. If they think destroying one device will silence you, they're wrong." Her words steadied me. I forwarded everything, saving it across multiple drives. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't fighting blind. Still, as I stared at Dad's words glowing on the screen, a chill crept over me. Because if Judith and Thomas had gone this far to erase me, they wouldn't stop now. They'd fight dirtier. And I had to be ready for whatever came next. The morning after discovering Dad's email, my phone buzzed with a new message. The sender, George Ellis. Subject line, "For your eyes only." My pulse quickened. I tapped it open, and there it was, a secure link with a single sentence beneath. "This is the proof they never wanted you to see." I hesitated, thumb hovering. Then I clicked. The video began grainy, the angle awkward, like it had been recorded from a corner of Dad's old office. My breath caught when Judith's voice filled the speakers, sharp, venomous, unmistakable. "Once Meredith's out, the shares are ours." My stomach dropped. She was sitting behind Dad's mahogany desk, her posture stiff, her eyes narrowed with calculation. Thomas paced in front of her, arms crossed, his tone calm but sinister. "She's too naive to see it coming," he muttered. "We'll forge the transfer. By the time she realizes, it'll be too late." Judith leaned forward, lowering her voice but not enough for the mic to miss. "If she resists, we'll crush her reputation. Family will believe us over her." The words sliced through me like glass. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a conspiracy. They hadn't just tried to cut me out. They'd planned it step by step, like vultures circling prey. I slammed my laptop shut, chest heaving, then forced it open again. I watched the video twice more, each line etching itself deeper into my memory. By the third time, my fear was gone. In its place, fury. My phone buzzed again. Sylvia. I didn't even say hello. "I've got them," I said, my voice trembling. "Explain." I sent her the link. A silence stretched on the other end until finally she exhaled sharply. "Meredith, this is gold. Admissible evidence. With the documents, the email, and this video. We can bury them. Legally, socially, completely." A wave of relief crashed through me, but it was laced with something darker. Because as much as I wanted justice, I wanted them to feel it, to watch their empire crumble, piece by piece. "Do we go public?" I asked, my hands sweating on the phone. "Not yet," Sylvia said firmly. "First, we lock this down. Verify its authenticity, file motions, build the case airtight. But Meredith..." Her tone shifted, colder, heavier. "Be careful. Once they realize you have this, they'll do anything to silence you." I swallowed hard, staring at the frozen image of Judith's face on the laptop screen. For the first time in years, she looked small, caught, exposed. They thought they could erase me. But they'd underestimated Dad's foresight and my resolve. What I didn't know was that Judith and Thomas were already plotting their next move, one more ruthless than I could have imagined. The following week, my nerves thrummed like a live wire. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected Judith or Thomas to be on the other end, demanding answers, spitting threats. But instead, silence. That silence meant one thing. They didn't know I had the video yet, and I was going to use that silence as my weapon. Sylvia moved quickly. She filed preliminary paperwork, secured the chain of evidence, and lined up an independent expert to authenticate the recording. The video, paired with Dad's email and the original shareholder documents George had preserved, was airtight. But Sylvia had another strategy, one that would make Judith and Thomas choke on the very reputation they prized so much. "We won't just beat them in court," she said, her eyes sharp across the polished conference table. "We'll destroy them in public opinion. Their name, their credibility, gone." I hesitated, the weight of it heavy in my chest. This wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about exposing them for the liars they were. "Do it," I whispered. That night, My hands shook as I typed the caption that would start the fire. This is the truth about Lane Properties. My father's legacy was stolen through lies and forgery. Here's the proof. Attached were 3 things: the authenticated video, Dad's email naming me his rightful heir, and the notarized agreements George had kept hidden for years. I tagged key business partners, community leaders, and local press outlets. My finger hovered over the post button for a long moment. Then I clicked. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Shares, comments, direct messages pouring in faster than I could process. A prominent business forum reposted it with the headline, "Scandal at Lane Properties." Local reporters slid into my inbox demanding interviews, and then came the flood of public outrage. Unbelievable betrayal. Charles Lane would be ashamed. Boycott Lane Properties until Judith and Thomas stepped down. Even family members who had stayed silent until now texted me privately, shocked, horrified, ashamed that they'd believed Judith's lies. My cousin Holly messaged, "I knew something was wrong. I'm so sorry." By midnight, the video had over 50,000 views. By morning, local news anchors were replaying it in prime time. And by lunch, 3 of Lane Properties' biggest contracts were frozen, clients unwilling to associate with the stench of fraud. I imagined Judith's face as the headlines rolled in, her empire collapsing not in the quiet secrecy she loved, but under the blinding glare of public shame. But just as I let myself breathe, my phone lit up with an incoming call. Not Sylvia, not George, Judith. Her name glared at me from the screen. My stomach tightened. And then, without waiting, another call buzzed in from Thomas, followed by a third from an unknown number. They knew, and they were coming for me. By the time I walked into the courthouse, the air was thick with whispers. Cameras flashed outside as reporters swarmed the steps, microphones thrust forward, their voices overlapping in a chaotic storm. "Meredith, did you really expose your own mother? Do you have proof of the forgeries? What do you say to claims this is just a revenge play?" I kept my chin high, clutching the leather folder Sylvia had handed me that morning. Inside were the documents, the email, the video transcript, all the weapons I needed. The truth wasn't just on my side, it was loaded like ammunition. When I stepped into the courtroom, Judith was already seated at the plaintiff's table. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, but her eyes still carried that sharpness, that desperate need for control. Beside her, Thomas sat rigid, his jaw clenched, his knuckles white against the polished wood. The judge called us to order, and it began. Their lawyer painted me as an unstable daughter seeking attention, claiming I had manipulated old documents and taken family matters public out of spite. Judith even dabbed her eyes with a tissue, the picture of a mother betrayed. But Sylvia wasn't rattled. She rose smoothly, her voice cutting through the courtroom like glass. "Your Honor, what we have here is not a family dispute. It's fraud. A calculated attempt to strip my client of her rightful inheritance." Then she dropped the bomb. The video played on the projector, grainy but clear. Judith's voice rang out across the silent courtroom. "Once Meredith's out, the shares are ours." Gasps echoed through the gallery. Thomas shifted uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding eye contact as the judge's brow furrowed deeper with every passing second. Next came Dad's email, read aloud by Sylvia with a calm precision that made my heart ache. "My shares in Lane Properties are yours. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." For the first time, I saw Judith falter. Her hand shook, the tissue slipping from her fingers onto the floor. Thomas leaned in, whispering urgently, but the mask had cracked. By the afternoon, the judge's patience wore thin. He slammed his gavel once, silencing the room. "The evidence is overwhelming. The transfer of shares to Thomas Grant is invalid and fraudulent. Full control of Lane Properties is restored to Meredith Lane." The words hit me like a tidal wave. Relief, justice, Dad's voice echoing in my memory. "This company is your future." Judith gasped, covering her mouth. Thomas stood abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor. "This isn't over," he spat, his voice raw. But even he knew the fight was lost. I sat motionless for a moment, letting the reality sink in. I had won. Not by begging, not by compromising, but by standing in the fire and refusing to back down. As court adjourned, reporters rushed forward again, but I barely heard them. All I could feel was the steady beat of my heart and the weight of Dad's legacy finally safe in my hands. Yet deep down, I knew this wasn't just about winning a courtroom battle. The real confrontation, the one between me and Judith, was still waiting. Because the moment I stepped outside, my phone lit up with a single text from her. "Meredith, please meet me, just once, I need to explain." That night, I sat in my apartment with the city lights flickering through the window. My phone buzzed over and over, Judith's number lighting up the screen. 30 calls in 1 hour. 30 desperate pleas. I didn't answer. I poured myself a glass of water, my hands finally steady. For weeks, I had fought tooth and nail against the people who should have protected me. Now, they were the ones scrambling, begging, collapsing under the weight of their own lies. The truth had done what years of silence never could. It set me free. When I finally listened to one voicemail, her voice cracked through the speaker. "Meredith, please, I'm sorry, don't leave me like this. We're family." The irony almost made me laugh. Family. That word she had used like a weapon to control me, to erase me, to bend me to her will. But family isn't manipulation. Family isn't betrayal. Family is loyalty, honesty, love, the things she'd traded for power. I deleted the message and blocked her number. My story with Judith and Thomas had ended the same way it began, with a slammed door. Only this time, I was the one who walked away. Weeks later, Lane Properties thrived again under my leadership. Clients returned, the company regained its reputation, and for the first time since Dad's passing, I felt his presence with me. Not in grief, but in pride. His voice echoed in my memory. "Sincerity is the one thing no one can take from you." He was right. Judith and Thomas faded into the background of Madison. Their names whispered only in scandal, their faces absent from the very circles they once ruled. They had tried to erase me. Instead, they erased themselves. As I locked up the office one evening, the city quiet around me, I realized something powerful. Revenge doesn't always come in fire or fury. Sometimes it comes in silence, in truth, in walking away stronger than they ever imagined you could be. And that's exactly what I did. So if you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or pushed aside, remember this: your voice, your truth, is stronger than their lies. Don't let anyone erase you. And now, I want to hear from you. What's the most satisfying moment of justice or revenge you've ever witnessed? Drop your story in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that prove sometimes the best revenge is living free.